I want you to think about the 5 people you spend the most time with, not the people you follow on social media, not celebrities or influencers, the actual human beings you interact with regularly, your closest friends, your family members, your co-workers, maybe your romantic partner. Think about them carefully. Got them in your mind? Now, I want you to think about their bank accounts, their credit card debt, their savings, their financial habits, the decisions they make with money. Do they invest? Do they budget? Do they live below their means? Or do they spend every dollar that comes in and then some? Do they buy things to look successful? Or do they buy things that actually make them successful? Here's a truth that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That applies to your income, your spending habits, your investment strategy, your relationship with debt, your entire financial worldview. If you're surrounded by people who are financially irresponsible, who prioritize appearances over wealth building, who make excuses instead of making money, then you are absorbing those habits, whether you realize it or not. And those habits are keeping you poor. This isn't about the economy. This isn't about your salary. This isn't about bad luck or unfair circumstances. This is about the people in your immediate orbit pulling you down financially, and you letting them do it because you're too polite, too scared of conflict, too worried about being judged to set boundaries around your money. And it's destroying your financial future. One dinner, one gift, one vacation, one expectation at a time. I'm going to walk you through exactly how this works. I'm going to show you the 5 specific ways the people around you are keeping you broke. And I'm going to tell you what to do about it, but I need to warn you up front, this is going to be uncomfortable because the enemies of your wealth aren't strangers. They're not corporations or politicians. They're the people you care about. They're the people who care about you. And recognizing that they're still keeping you poor despite good intentions, that's one of the hardest truths you'll ever face. But before we get into it, if you're serious about building wealth, if you're tired of feeling like you're working hard and going nowhere, if you want to understand why your bank account never seems to grow no matter what you do, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because what we do here is tell you the truth, not the comfortable version, not the socially acceptable version, the version that actually leads to financial freedom, even when that truth means looking at the people you love and admitting they're part of the problem. Let's get into it. This is the big one. This is the silent assassin of middle-class wealth in America, and it works like this. You're out with friends and someone suggests a restaurant. Not anywhere special, just dinner. You show up and you look at the menu and the entrees are $35, $40. Wine is $15 a glass. By the time you're done with appetizers, drinks, entree, tax, and tip, you've spent $80 to $100 for one meal. One night. Now here's the thing, you didn't really want to spend $80 on dinner. You would have been perfectly happy cooking at home or going somewhere more reasonable. But nobody else suggested that. Everyone else seemed fine with the price point. And you didn't want to be the person who spoke up and said, hey, this is too expensive for me. Because that would be awkward. That would reveal something about your financial situation that you'd rather keep private. So you said nothing. You ordered, you smiled, you paid, and you went home $100 poorer. Multiply that by every social event, every group outing, every vacation, every birthday dinner, every wedding you attend, every bachelor party, every girls' weekend, every concert, every sporting event. The spending pressure from your social circle is not a small thing. It's not incidental. For many people, social spending is one of their top 3 expenses, and almost none of it is actually bringing them joy proportional to what they're spending. Most of it is maintenance spending to keep up appearances and maintain relationships. Let me give you some real numbers. The average American spends about $4,000 a year on social events and group activities. That's everything from going out to bars and restaurants with friends, to contributing to group gifts, to attending destination weddings. $4,000. Do you know what $4,000 a year invested over 30 years becomes at an 8% return, over $450,000, you're trading nearly $500,000 in retirement wealth for the privilege of not being the person who suggests the cheaper restaurant. But it goes deeper than just the direct spending. The lifestyle matching phenomenon is more insidious. When your friends buy houses, you feel pressure to buy a house. When they buy new cars, you feel like your car looks shabby by comparison. When they go on expensive vacations, you feel like you should be traveling too. When they wear certain brands, send their kids to certain schools, live in certain neighborhoods, you absorb the message that this is the baseline of normal, and if you're not keeping up, you're falling behind. The data on this is clear. People's spending rises to match their peer group regardless of whether their income supports it. This is why you see households making $200,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck, because they live in neighborhoods where everyone makes $200,000 a year and everyone is spending like they make $300,000 a year. It's not that they're bad with money in a vacuum. It's that they're competing in a spending arms race they can't win and didn't even choose to enter. And here's what really kills me. Most of the time, everyone in the group is doing the same thing. Everyone is spending more than they're comfortable with. Everyone wishes someone would suggest the cheaper option. Everyone is going into debt or depleting savings to maintain appearances that everyone else is also faking. But nobody says anything because everyone assumes everyone else is actually fine with the spending. It's a collective delusion that's bankrupting the middle class. Now, I can already hear the objections. But Kevin, these are my friends. These are important relationships. I can't just stop seeing people. You're right. And I'm not telling you to become a hermit. What I'm telling you is that you need to set boundaries. You need to be willing to have uncomfortable conversations. You need to be the person who suggests alternatives. When someone proposes an expensive restaurant, you say, "Hey, I'm trying to be more careful with my spending. Can we do something more low-key?" When the group is planning a destination bachelor party, you say, "I can't swing that financially. I'll celebrate with you locally." When your friends are buying houses they can't afford and pressuring you to do the same, you say, "We're choosing to prioritize financial security over a bigger house right now." Will this be uncomfortable? Yes. Will some people judge you? Probably. Will you potentially lose some relationships over this? Maybe. And here's the hard truth you need to accept. Any relationship that cannot survive you setting financial boundaries is not a relationship that's helping you build the life you actually want. It's a relationship that's serving someone else's agenda at your expense. Rich people understand this instinctively. They surround themselves with other people who are focused on building wealth, not displaying it. They have friends who talk about investments, not the newest luxury car. They spend time with people who celebrate frugality, not consumption. And when someone in their circle starts spending recklessly, they distance themselves, not because they're judgmental, but because they understand that financial habits are contagious. You need to get comfortable being the cheap one in your group. You need to get comfortable suggesting lower-cost alternatives. You need to get comfortable saying no to things you can't afford or don't want to spend on, because the alternative is spending the next 30 years broke so that people who may not even be your friends by then think you're doing well now. Let me tell you about a conversation I had recently. A woman in her early 40s makes decent money, works hard, no kids of her own, and she cannot build any savings. Not because she's overspending on herself, but because she's financially supporting her parents, her sister's kids, and periodically her brother when he's between jobs. She's sending money home every month. She's covering emergency expenses. She's helping with rent, with car payments, with credit card bills. She's doing this because they're family and she feels obligated. And she's going to reach retirement age with nothing because she spent her entire working life funding other people's financial dysfunction. This is not rare. This is happening in millions of families across America, across every demographic, every income level, adult children supporting parents who didn't save for retirement, siblings bailing each other out of financial emergencies that aren't really emergencies, they're consequences of bad decisions, grown adults who can't say no when a family member asks for money because family is family and you're supposed to help. Let me be very clear about something. There is a difference between helping someone through a genuine crisis and enabling someone's ongoing financial dysfunction. If your parent loses their job unexpectedly and needs help for a few months while they get back on their feet, that's one thing. If your parent has never had savings, refuses to budget, makes terrible financial decisions year after year, and expects you to subsidize their lifestyle indefinitely, that's something entirely different. And treating those two situations the same way is how you destroy your own financial security while accomplishing nothing for them. The hard truth about family financial obligation is this: you cannot save someone from their own financial choices. You can give them money and they will spend it the same way they spent their own money, and then they'll need more money. You can bail them out of one crisis and there will be another crisis right behind it. You can sacrifice your financial future to prop up theirs and you will both end up broke. The only difference is you'll be broke having done everything right, and they'll be broke having done everything wrong. I want you to think about this logically. If someone has demonstrated over years or decades that they cannot manage money, that they prioritize consumption over savings, that they make impulsive decisions that lead to predictable financial problems, why would giving them more money change that pattern? It doesn't. It just delays the inevitable while draining your resources in the process. And the resentment this creates is toxic. You start resenting family members for asking. They start resenting you if you say no. You feel guilty for having boundaries. They feel entitled to your money because you're doing well and they're not. The relationship becomes transactional and bitter, and nobody's financial situation actually improves. You're just both stuck in a cycle that serves no one. Here's what you need to understand. Your first financial obligation is to your own stability and your own future. Not your parents' retirement, not your siblings' poor choices, not your extended family's expectations. You have to secure your own oxygen mask before you help others. That's not selfishness. That's common sense. Because if you destroy your own financial security trying to save everyone else, all you've done is increase the number of people who have nothing. That helps no one. Now, there are situations where family support is both appropriate and necessary. Aging parents who genuinely cannot work and have no other resources. Special needs family members who require support. Genuine emergencies that are one-time events. I'm not saying be heartless, I'm saying be strategic. Set boundaries, define limits. Make it clear what you can help with, what you can't help with, and what the conditions are for ongoing support. If you're going to help a family member financially, it should come with expectations. You're helping them get to stability, not funding their lifestyle indefinitely. You're helping them while they make changes, not enabling them to avoid consequences. And you're helping only to the extent that it doesn't compromise your own financial security. If you can't afford to help, the answer is no. Period. Their financial emergency is not your financial emergency unless you choose to make it one. The other piece of this is that you need to talk about money with family while everyone's still healthy and stable, not when there's already a crisis. You need to have conversations with aging parents about their retirement plans. You need to know if you're going to be expected to support them financially. You need to make it clear what you can and cannot do. These are uncomfortable conversations. Have them anyway, because having them when there's a crisis is 10 times worse and usually results in you making commitments out of guilt that you can't actually sustain. Rich people, old money families, they understand this. They set up trusts. They have clear inheritance structures. They have family meetings about money. They make expectations explicit. They don't let emotion override financial common sense. And they certainly don't let one family member's poor choices drain the resources of everyone else in the family. You need to learn from that. Your family will survive you having boundaries. What they won't survive, what you won't survive, is you trying to save everyone at the expense of your own future. Stop setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm. It's not noble, it's not loving, it's just poor financial strategy that hurts everyone in the long run. This one is relatively new, but it's devastating. And it's affecting younger generations in ways that previous generations never had to deal with. I'm talking about social media spending pressure, the constant stream of images showing you the vacations your friends are taking, the houses they're buying, the cars they're driving, the restaurants they're eating at, the clothes they're wearing, the lives they're living, and the implicit message underneath all of it, you should be doing this too. Here's what makes this particularly insidious. In the past, you only compared yourself to people in your immediate physical proximity, your neighbors, your coworkers, your extended family, and those people's financial situations were somewhat transparent. You had some sense of what they actually made and what they could actually afford. Social media destroys that boundary. Now you're comparing yourself to everyone you went to high school with, everyone you went to college with, everyone you met once at a party 5 years ago, everyone you work with, everyone in your industry, everyone in your city, hundreds or thousands of people, all posting the highlight reels of their lives. And those highlight reels are lies, not always intentional lies, but lies nonetheless, because what you're seeing is the vacation, not the credit card debt that financed it. You're seeing the new house, not the mortgage that consumes 60% of their income. You're seeing the designer clothes, not the personal loan they took out to afford them. You're seeing success, not the financial dysfunction hiding behind the images. And you're internalizing the message that everyone else is doing great and you're falling behind. The data on this is genuinely disturbing. Multiple studies have shown that increased social media use correlates with increased spending and increased debt. People who spend more time on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, they spend more money trying to create content-worthy experiences. They buy more clothes to photograph. They go to more expensive restaurants to post about. They finance lifestyles they can't afford because the validation they get from posting about it feels like it's worth the financial sacrifice. This is particularly acute among millennials and Gen Z, entire generations who have never known a world without social media, without the constant exposure to other people's curated lives, without the pressure to document and display their own lives for public consumption. And the result is skyrocketing debt levels, vanishingly low savings rates, and a generation of people who are more concerned with looking successful than being successful. Here's the worst part. A lot of the people creating this content, the influencers, the lifestyle bloggers, the people with the perfect feeds, They're broke. They're living on credit. They're being paid by brands to promote products. Their entire life is a performance designed to generate engagement and income. They're not showing you their real life. They're showing you a business, a carefully constructed fantasy that they're monetizing. And you're comparing your real life to their performance and coming up short. I need you to understand something fundamental. Social media is not real life. It's a curated, edited, filtered, carefully staged version of life. Nobody posts about their credit card debt. Nobody posts about having to skip retirement contributions because they overspent this month. Nobody posts about lying awake at night worried about money. They post the vacation and the new car and the perfect brunch and the designer bag. And if you're making financial decisions based on trying to match what you see online, you are destroying your future to compete in a game that isn't even real. So what do you do about it? Here's my advice. First, limit your social media consumption dramatically. I'm not saying delete everything and live in a cave. I'm saying be intentional about how much time you spend consuming other people's highlight reels. Set specific times, set time limits, and when you find yourself mindlessly scrolling and starting to feel inadequate or like you should be doing more or buying more, close the app. Second, unfollow people whose content makes you feel financially inadequate. If someone's feed is all luxury and consumption and it's making you feel like you need to spend money to keep up, unfollow them. You don't owe anyone your attention, especially when that attention is costing you money. Third, stop posting content designed to impress people. If you're going somewhere or buying something or doing something primarily because it'll make good content, because it'll get likes, because it'll show people you're doing well, stop. Do things because you genuinely want to do them, and if you happen to share them, fine. But don't let the performance dictate the spending. Fourth, follow people who post about financial literacy, about saving, about investing, about building wealth. Change your feed from consumption porn to financial education. Let the algorithm serve you content that reinforces good financial habits instead of bad ones. And fifth, remember this fundamental truth. The people who are actually wealthy, truly wealthy, generational wealth level wealthy, they're not on social media flexing. They're not posting their bank statements or their investment portfolios or their quarterly dividend checks. They don't need validation from strangers on the internet because they have actual security. The flexing is a tell. It's a signal that someone cares more about looking rich than being rich. And you don't want to be that person. Let me tell you about a specific type of person in your life. We all have one, the friend who's always in some kind of financial crisis. They need to borrow money for rent. Their car broke down and they need help with repairs. They lost their job and they need a loan to get through the month. They have an unexpected medical bill. Their credit cards are maxed out and they need to cover groceries. There's always something, always a crisis, always an emergency, and always a request for you to help. Now, here's the thing. Some of these crises are real, genuinely unexpected events that could happen to anyone. But when it's the same person month after month, year after year, always having emergencies, always needing money, always promising they'll pay you back, and then never quite getting around to it, that's not bad luck. That's a pattern, and you're enabling it. People who live in constant financial crisis don't live that way because the universe is conspiring against them. They live that way because they make choices that lead to crisis. They don't budget. They don't save for emergencies. They spend impulsively. They prioritize today over tomorrow. And when the predictable consequences of those choices catch up with them, they outsource the problem to the people around them. They make their bad financial choices your financial problem. And here's the dynamic that keeps you trapped. When someone you care about asks you for money, they frame it as urgent. as temporary, as a one-time thing. They promise they'll pay you back. They express gratitude and embarrassment. They make you feel like you'd be a bad friend, a bad person if you said no, so you say yes. You give them the money, and either they never pay you back or they pay you back just in time to ask for more money for the next crisis. You're not helping them. You're subsidizing their dysfunction. Every time you bail them out, you remove the consequences of their bad choices. You make it possible for them to continue living the same way because they know that when it gets bad enough, someone will step in. That someone is you, and you're not doing them a favor. You're making their problem worse while draining your own resources. Here's what actually helping looks like. Helping is teaching someone to budget. Helping is sitting down with them and looking at their spending and showing them where the money is going. Helping is connecting them with financial resources, counseling, debt management programs. Helping is tough love. Helping is saying, I care about you and I want you to be okay, and giving you money isn't going to fix this. We need to address the actual problem. Giving someone money when they're in financial crisis because of their own repeated poor choices is not help. It's enabling, and the difference matters because help leads to improvement. Enabling leads to dependency, and dependency destroys relationships, drains resources, and helps no one. I'm not saying never loan money to a friend. I'm saying if you loan money to a friend, you should assume you're never getting it back. Only loan what you can afford to lose, and only loan once. If someone needs to borrow money from you more than once, the problem is not temporary circumstances. The problem is their relationship with money, and you can't fix that by giving them more of it. The other thing you need to understand is that saying no doesn't make you a bad friend. It makes you someone with boundaries, someone who understands that you can't sacrifice your own financial security to temporarily patch someone else's. Someone who recognizes that true friendship doesn't involve one person constantly extracting resources from another. Friendship should be mutual, reciprocal, balanced. If it's not friendship. It's exploitation, even if it doesn't feel that way. And here's the reality. The friend who's always having financial emergencies, who's always asking for help, who's always in crisis mode, that person is not going to help you when you need it, because they don't have anything to give. They're not building wealth. They're not building stability. They're barely treading water. And if you go down trying to keep them afloat, there won't be anyone to pull you back up. Cut them off, not from your life necessarily, but from your wallet. Set the boundary clearly. I can't help financially anymore. I care about you, but I can't keep doing this. And then stick to it. They'll be upset. They'll probably pull away. They might even try to make you feel guilty or selfish. Let them, because your financial security is more important than their temporary approval. This is the big one. This is the relationship that can destroy decades of good financial habits in a matter of years. I'm talking about romantic partners who don't share your approach to money. And this is more common than you think. Someone who's a saver ends up with someone who's a spender. Someone who's debt-averse ends up with someone who thinks credit cards are free money. Someone who wants to invest and build wealth ends up with someone who wants to live for today and worry about tomorrow later. And here's why this is so damaging. In most other areas of life, you can compromise with a partner who has different values. You like different movies, you take turns picking, you have different hobbies, you do them separately, you have different friend groups, you maintain them independently. But money is different. Money is joint, especially once you're married, especially once you have shared expenses and shared goals and shared accounts. You can't compromise between saving and spending. You either build wealth or you don't. The data on this is clear. Financial disagreement is one of the top predictors of divorce. Couples who argue about money argue more frequently and more intensely than couples who argue about anything else. And it's not because money itself is inherently more contentious. It's because money represents values. It represents priorities. It represents what you think matters in life. And when two people have fundamentally different answers to those questions, no amount of communication or compromise bridges that gap completely. Let me give you a real example. I know a couple where one person is aggressively focused on early retirement, saving half their income, investing consistently, living well below their means. The other person thinks that's ridiculous, thinks you only live once, thinks you should enjoy your money now, thinks sacrificing today for a hypothetical tomorrow is a waste. They've been together for years. They fight about money constantly. One person feels like they're being held back from their dreams. The other person feels like they're being forced to live in deprivation. Neither is happy. The relationship is hanging by a thread, and their net worth is basically nothing because the saver can't build wealth fast enough to overcome the spender's habits. That's what mismatched financial values do. They create resentment, they create conflict, and they prevent both people from getting what they actually want. The saver doesn't get to build wealth because the spender keeps draining resources. The spender doesn't get to enjoy spending guilt-free because the saver is always upset about it. Nobody wins. Now, I'm not saying you need to find someone who's exactly like you financially. I'm saying you need someone who's on the same page about the big picture stuff. Do we believe in saving for retirement? Do we believe in living below our means? Do we believe in avoiding debt? Do we believe in investing? If the answer to those fundamental questions is different, you have a problem, a big problem, one that doesn't get better with time or love or hope. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. If you're with someone who's financially irresponsible, who refuses to budget, who runs up debt, who doesn't save, who doesn't share your financial goals, you have three options. 1, accept that you'll never build the wealth you want as long as you're with them. 2, try to change them, which almost never works and creates massive resentment. 3, leave. Those are your options. There's no magical fourth option where everything works out fine despite fundamental incompatibility. I know that sounds harsh. I know love is supposed to conquer all. But love doesn't pay the bills. Love doesn't fund retirement. Love doesn't protect you from financial catastrophe when your partner makes terrible decisions that affect you both. And staying with someone who's destroying your financial future because you love them is not romantic. It's self-destructive. If you're dating someone and you're discovering financial incompatibility, end it now, before you're married, before you have kids, before your finances are truly entangled. If you're already married, you need to have a come to Jesus conversation immediately. Lay out your financial goals clearly. Explain why they matter to you. Ask them to commit to a shared financial plan. If they won't, if they refuse, if they dismiss your concerns, you need to seriously evaluate whether this relationship is compatible with the life you want to build. And if you're single, make financial compatibility a dating criterion. I'm not saying lead with what's your credit score. I'm saying pay attention to how they talk about money. Pay attention to their spending habits. Pay attention to whether they have savings, whether they have debt, whether they think about the future. These things matter. They matter more than chemistry. They matter more than shared interests, because a relationship can survive having different hobbies. It rarely survives having different financial values. All right, I've spent a lot of time describing the problem. Now let me give you the solution, because recognizing that the people around you are keeping you poor isn't enough. You need a strategy for how to deal with it. Here's exactly what to do. First, audit your social circle. Make a list of the people you spend the most time with. For each person, write down whether they're a positive or negative influence on your finances. Are they building wealth or bleeding money? Are they encouraging good financial habits or pulling you into spending? Be honest. This isn't about whether you like them. This is about whether being around them helps or hurts your financial goals. Second, start pulling back from the people who are negative influences. This doesn't mean cutting everyone off immediately. It means being more selective about when and how you spend time with them. Say no more often. Suggest lower-cost alternatives. Spend less time in environments where spending pressure is high. Create distance. Some relationships will survive this, some won't. Accept that. Third, actively seek out relationships with people who share your financial values. Join investment clubs, go to financial literacy meetups, connect with coworkers who are serious about building wealth. Find online communities focused on financial independence. Surround yourself with people who normalize saving, investing, and living below your means. Because when that becomes your normal, your financial life will transform. Fourth, have explicit conversations about money with the people who matter most. Your partner, if you have one, your close family, your closest friends. Make your financial goals clear. Explain what you're trying to build. Set boundaries around what you will and won't do financially. Yes, this is uncomfortable, do it anyway, because implicit assumptions and unspoken expectations are how you end up sacrificing your goals for other people's comfort. Fifth, practice saying no without explanation or justification. I can't afford that is a complete sentence. That's not in my budget requires no further elaboration. I'm prioritizing other financial goals right now is not an invitation for debate. The people who respect your boundaries don't need extensive justification. The people who don't respect your boundaries don't deserve it. Sixth, log out of social media or drastically limit your use. If you find yourself comparing your life to others online and feeling inadequate or like you need to spend money to keep up, you need to break that cycle. Delete apps from your phone. Set time limits. Unfollow people whose content triggers spending impulses. Curate your feed to serve your goals, not undermine them. Seventh, if you have a partner, create a shared financial plan and make it non-negotiable. Monthly budget meetings, shared financial goals, agreement on savings rates and investment strategy. If they won't participate in this, if they refuse to engage with shared financial planning, you have important decisions to make about the relationship. Eighth, stop funding other people's dysfunction. If someone asks you for money repeatedly, the answer is no. If a family member expects ongoing financial support for lifestyle choices you wouldn't make, the answer is no. If a friend needs to borrow money for the third time this year, the answer is no. Your financial security comes first. Always. Ninth, get comfortable with being the weird one about money. Get comfortable being the person who suggests staying in. Get comfortable being the person who brings their lunch. Get comfortable being the person who doesn't upgrade their phone every year. Get comfortable being the person who talks about investments while everyone else is talking about the latest thing they bought, because weird is what works. Normal is broke. 10th, find at least one person in your life who's further ahead financially and learn from them. Someone who's built real wealth, someone who's financially independent, someone who's made the hard choices and has the results to show for it. Spend time with them, ask questions, learn their habits, model their behavior, because success leaves clues. And you need people in your life who are the financial future you want, not the financial present you're trying to escape. Here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. Some of the people you care about most are going to resent you for building wealth. They're going to feel judged by your choices even if you say nothing. They're going to feel left behind when you start pulling ahead financially. They're going to respond to your boundary setting with guilt trips, with accusations of being selfish or cheap or thinking you're better than them. And you need to be okay with that, because you cannot build the life you want while managing everyone else's feelings about it. You cannot build wealth while making sure nobody around you feels uncomfortable about their lack of wealth. You cannot set financial boundaries while also ensuring that nobody's upset by those boundaries. Some people will celebrate your financial success. Those are your people. Keep them close. Some people will be indifferent. That's fine, but some people will be threatened by it, will resent it, will actively try to pull you back down to their level because your success highlights their lack of success. Those people need to be removed from your inner circle, not hated, not wished ill, just removed from the position of influence over your financial life. This is lonely sometimes. I'm not going to lie to you. Choosing financial responsibility in a culture of consumption is lonely. Setting boundaries with family is lonely. Saying no to friends is lonely. Building wealth when everyone around you is treading water or drowning is lonely. But you know what's lonelier? Being 65 years old and broke, surrounded by people who kept you poor through decades of bad influence and social pressure, and realizing those relationships weren't worth what they cost you. Your financial future is yours to build or yours to destroy. Nobody else is going to build it for you. And a lot of people in your life, without even meaning to, are actively destroying it. You need to decide what matters more. Comfort now or freedom later, avoiding conflict today or having security tomorrow, being liked or being wealthy. You can have good relationships and build wealth, but you can't have relationships that require you to stay poor to maintain them and build wealth at the same time. Those are mutually exclusive. Choose wisely. If this message has hit home, if you're recognizing patterns in your own life, if you're seeing clearly for the first time how the people around you are impacting your financial trajectory, then I need you to take action immediately. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. First, hit that like button. Let the algorithm know this content matters, that people need to hear the hard truths about relationships and money. Second, leave a comment telling me which of these 5 wealth killers is affecting you most. Social spending pressure, family entanglement, social media comparison, the friend who always needs money, a financially incompatible partner. Say it out loud. Acknowledge it. That's the first step to changing it. Third, subscribe to this channel and become a member. Join a community of people who understand that wealth building sometimes means making hard choices about relationships. Who understand that your financial future is more important than other people's comfort with your boundaries. Who are committed to building real wealth, not maintaining appearances. The people in your life are either helping you build wealth or helping you stay poor. There's no neutral. They're either pushing you forward or pulling you back. And most people are surrounded by people who are pulling them back, not because those people are evil, but because misery loves company, because dysfunction seeks validation, because broke people want everyone around them to stay broke too. Don't let them win. Your financial freedom is worth more than their approval. Your future security is worth more than avoiding uncomfortable conversations today. Your wealth is worth more than maintaining relationships that require you to stay poor to preserve them. Be willing to be the weird one. Be willing to set boundaries. Be willing to walk away from relationships that don't serve your goals. Be willing to build something different than what everyone around you is building. That's how you win. That's how you break generational patterns of financial dysfunction. That's how you actually build wealth instead of just talking about it. Your 65-year-old self is watching. Choose that person's security over today's comfort. Choose your future over other people's feelings. Choose wealth over approval. That's the decision that changes everything. Now go make it.